Arbuckle.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Foreign Affairs, has he seen reports about how the government should be responding to international developments?
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Yes, we live in the most challenging and complex international environment in the last 80 years. Every day events occur somewhere in the world which are confounding, surprising and even shocking for many New Zealanders. Some self-appointed experts think that the best way for New Zealand as a government to respond to this environment is to loudly and stridently offer an instant reaction to the outrage of the day before getting all the facts. But we are running a government here, not a global news commentary service, and our job is to promote the interests of New Zealanders in a prudent and active way, not to offer vein-popping virtue signalling to an effort to let off some steam and make ourselves feel superior. New Zealand's, and that's something that the former leaders of the Labour Party and former New Zealand ambassadors to China could do well to remember. We don't take lectures on foreign policy from has-been, irrelevant former pinko communists or from politicians who thought nothing of letting New Zealand's national interest being torched by their inherent anti-Americanism.
Supplementary.
Mr. I won't refer to a name, won't name them. So everyone is, when everyone is quiet, Mr. Arbuckle, please ask your supplementary. Well, was that a point of order? No, I'd prefer you didn't. I think, Mr. Arbuckle, you could proceed with your supplementary.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Would New Zealanders expect their government to speak loudly on the international stage?
More.
New Zealanders expect their government to look out for them. Our job is not to provide a running commentary about this or that action or outrage as some kind of vanity exercise. Our job is to promote our country's interests when we can and defend them when we must. We choose to do this calmly and rationally as realists via diplomacy. We pursue mutual interests and opportunities for the benefit of New Zealanders. That is not going to change, and it's an approach appropriate to our chaotic and disruptive times. Many, if not all, the critics of the government's foreign policy are driven by the 24/7 news cycle. They demand we respond immediately to every perceived outrage. But to what end? We, in contrast, are driven by our assessments of how best to defend, grow and strengthen New Zealand's vital foreign policy interests.
Supplementary. So how is the government responding to events on the world stage?
Marvellous question. We have been pursuing a prudent, highly active foreign policy. Alongside the great work of other senior ministers, we have spent over 200 days of this parliamentary term overseas, almost always travelling during the parliamentary recesses. We have been accentuating the role of our diplomacy in all of our bilateral engagements, learning from counterparts about their challenges and expressing our values and our concerns wherever we go. This is true whether we're in Canberra, Washington, New York, Beijing, Brussels, London, Suva, Cairo or elsewhere. The government has prioritised relationships in our own region. This term we have visited every single Pacific Islands Forum country, every one. We have committed resources to seriously uplifting our relationships across Southeast Asia and beyond, and we have established a credible defence force to back up our words and other times and other expressions. While our critics want us to bang endlessly on a big drum about the latest day's outrage, we prefer to promote the harmony of dialogue and the quiet beat of diplomacy to maintain and strengthen our regional and global relationships.
Supplementary.
Just remind the House that questions are supposed to be relatively concise. Jamie Arbuckle.
How does the government view the international system and the role of the United Nations?
New Zealand has been a staunch supporter of the United Nations going all the way back to Peter Fraser and the first Labour government. That support is undiminished. Of course, New Zealand as a small state benefits from an international system with the United Nations as its core. But at the same time, we recognise that the United Nations has to change. It must return to its focus on the core of the United Nations Charter, which is about peace and security, and it must be fit for purpose for the challenges facing its members in the 21st century. The international system has become overgrown and it needs pruning. Well, I would slow down, but you were complaining before about the answer being too long. Make up your mind, Chippy. Right? You know, you can't. Usually take an hour to change your mind, but this time it took only 3 seconds. Now, where was I before? So I was interrupted. The international system has become overgrown and it needs pruning. To that end, we are co-leading the reform of New York on UN mandates. We're working constructively with Pacific nations and other partners to seriously reduce duplication, management costs, and to improve their focus and impact. We believe in the UN, but we want it, and we've made countless speeches on their need to reform.
Supplementary.
Just when it's being asked, the House is silent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Have you seen any reports on your travel in early 2025 to the Gulf region in North Asia?
Yes. Now, TVNZ ran a completely unhinged, unbalanced and disgraceful story last night about this travel to 2 regions of great importance to New Zealand in both diplomatic and trade terms. This was a visit during which we met political leaders, including foreign ministers of the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, China and Mongolia. Some fairly important countries in that list. And to those most important political leaders, we talked about all aspects of New Zealand's relations with North Asia and the Gulf, as well as a range of priority and international issues, including the Middle East. And you know what? Today, about their support for our developments in Antarctica. Did TVNZ report any of this last night? Despite us supplying them with all this information? Of course not. They don't believe in balance, in honesty and integrity. They believe in gratuitous hit jobs. And they even mentioned the Parker fight in London. If they'd had the decency to ask me, I showed them receipts of me paying personally for me and my staff member, not the taxpayer, unlike you bludger.